I serve on a small committee at Human Rights Watch that gives out grants to journalists all over the world. It's called the Hellman Hammett Award, and it gives out grants to journalists who are under threat of persecution. And so I'm constantly reminded there over the stresses, threats, the dangers that writers suffer and face that I simply don't. You know, when I won the award, I was thoroughly flattered, but also felt somewhat undeserving because, of course, as an American journalist, even though I was writing a book about Sierra Leone, I wasn't particularly under threat. It was other journalists who were far, far more so. So it's through working on that committee that I'm constantly reminded, and then it's in one very personal way. I also teach at a graduate program. It's a MFA, Fine Arts program for writers. And in that kind of a program where many of the writers are working on personal work, on memoirs, you wouldn't think this would come up. But I have a student from a country that, for her sake, I'm not going to name, who turned in to me and to her fellow graduate students just a wonderful piece of writing, an opening chapter that had us all in admiration of the prose and in suspense. We wanted more. We said, when would we get it? She said, never. We looked surprised. We asked why. She said, because I can't risk writing anything that would be even remotely critical of my home country. And we said, why? You're thousands, and I do mean many thousands of miles away here. And she said, because they could easily be monitoring what I'm writing just via the cloud. So I have gone back. I've definitely gone back to West Africa a number of times since writing the book, and was just in Sierra Leone a little over a year ago to write a story about a gold mine and an improbable attempt to regenerate the economy of Sierra Leone. Now, sadly, for many reasons, that attempt was put on hold, and now I'd have to say is very unlikely to succeed because of the Ebola crisis. Indeed, that gold mine that I was crawling around in recently turned out to be right next to a village that was the very epicenter of the Ebola crisis. It felt great. You know, this may be somewhat less so where you are than where I am in the States, but writing about Africa is a somewhat obscure endeavor, at least here. And I was writing about this tiny, tiny country, Sierra Leone. I had so much emotionally invested there and emotionally invested with the handful of people I was writing about. And those ranged from some of the British soldiers who were there as part of the intervention that helped very much to bring the war to the end, to a Sierra Leonean medical student, to a father who had his hands chopped off in the war as he tried to rescue his daughter from being raped by rebel soldiers. So there was a lot of emotion there. To have that book recognized was, of course, a really moving affirmation for me.